A handful of seashells on a beach and a tiny pin on a bookshelf might look completely harmless, but today they sit at the center of a federal criminal indictment.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching an entirely unprecedented legal situation unfold right now.
Total.
Everyday objects and, well, four little numbers are sparking this massive political firestorm. And it's forcing the justice system to answer a really uncomfortable question about, how we actually communicate.
So let's get you caught up on the news right here, right now, as of May 2, 2026.
Right.
Just days ago, so on April 28th, former FBI Director James Comey was indicted by a federal grand jury.
Wow.
Yeah, he's facing 2 felony counts, and this is wild. Each of those counts carries a penalty of up to 10 years in federal prison.
It's incredibly serious.
Exactly. And his alleged crime, well, it was posting an Instagram photo back in 2025. The picture simply showed some seashells arranged in the sand to spell the number 8647.
Right, and the Department of Justice is looking at that specific arrangement of shells, and they're interpreting those 4 digits as a direct violent threat against the 47th president, Donald Trump.
Just from some shells on a beach.
Yeah, they're arguing it isn't just, an artsy beach photo. To the DOJ, it's a coded call for harm.
And almost the second that indictment dropped, the internet just went completely wild.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, politicians, including former gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon, immediately pointed their fingers in a totally different direction.
Yep, they pivoted right away.
They brought everyone's attention back to October 2020, because that's when Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer appeared on Meet the Press.
Right, I remember that.
And right behind her during that interview, just sitting quietly on a shelf, was this small emblem displaying the numbers 8645.
And that's where things get really complicated legally. Because acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche is now leaving the door wide open to prosecuting Governor Whitmer over that exact display.
Really? After all this time?
Yeah. He recently told reporters that, quote, other incidents of threats against the president of the United States, those will be investigated.
So he's basically signaling that the DOJ might not just stop with James Comey.
Exactly.
Okay, so our mission for you today on this deep dive is to lay out this massive stack of news reports, political resolutions, and linguistic history to really figure out what's actually happening here.
Because there's a lot to unpack.
There really is. And, because we're dealing with highly charged political figures, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, James Comey, Gretchen Whitmer, we want to be crystal clear with you up front.
We absolutely do.
We don't have a dog in this fight. We aren't taking sides at all. Our job today is strictly to look at what the legal documents and historical records actually say and figure out how the law works in a case that's just this unusual.
Right. So we'll be breaking down the arguments from both the right-wing and left-wing perspectives that are presented in all these sources we have, completely impartially. The goal is simply to convey the ideas exactly as they exist out there in the public square so you can really understand the mechanics behind this controversy.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We've got 2 completely different politicians, years apart, using almost the exact same 4 numbers.
Basically, yeah.
And before we get into the whole history of the phrase itself, we need to understand the physical actions that triggered this national debate. Because the DOJ isn't just giving Comey a slap on the wrist here.
No, not at all.
We're talking 20 potential years in prison for an Instagram post, which just feels completely surreal.
It does. It feels really disconnected from how we normally use social media.
Exactly. So what's the specific legal mechanism they're using to justify pulling a former FBI director into a courtroom over seashells?
So the federal grand jury in North Carolina indicted Comey on 2 very specific federal charges. First, threatening the president, and second, transmitting a threat to kill the president online. And the prosecutor's core argument is that by posting 8647, Comey was sending a deliberate, calculated message calling for the elimination of the 47th president.
Wow.
Yeah, they're treating those numbers as a literal, lethal directive.
But Comey is fighting back hard, right? I know he's already pleaded innocent.
Yes, he has.
He actually put out a video saying he isn't afraid and he still believes in an independent judiciary.
And his defense is super interesting. It's essentially that he's totally out of the loop on internet slang.
Huh. Just a boomer on the internet?
Pretty much. He claimed he had no idea the numbers had any violent meaning whatsoever. He explicitly called it a, quote, cool shell formation.
What a cool shell formation.
Yeah. And he pointed out that he genuinely hates violence, and he made sure everyone knew that he quickly deleted the post the second he learned people were getting upset about it.
Okay, so his defense team is basically building their entire strategy around that exact premise, that this was an innocent, perhaps incredibly clueless mistake by an older guy on social media.
That's exactly it. But, that defense immediately collided with the political reality of Governor Whitmer's situation.
Right, because of the timing.
Yeah, because the moment Comey was indicted, supporters of President Trump just flooded social media. They were highlighting Whitmer's 8645 pin from 2020, demanding equal treatment under the law.
Which makes sense. I remember that controversy back in 2020. The Trump administration was furious about it.
They really were.
They argued her pin was a sneaky coded message encouraging people to eliminate him.
Yes, but Whitmer's team didn't back down at all back then.
Right. They pushed back, saying it was just, random background decor, or, at the absolute most, a political statement about voting him out of office.
Right. They completely, 100% denied it was a threat of physical violence.
But that parallel hasn't just stayed on social media, has it?
No, not at all. It's actually escalated into formal political action right now.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, a group of lawmakers in Michigan just introduced House Resolution 112.
House Resolution 112, got it.
Right. So representatives like Kara and Fox introduced this measure, literally demanding the FBI officially condemn Comey's Seashell post.
Wait, state representatives in Michigan are demanding the FBI condemn a guy in North Carolina?
Yep. And in that exact same resolution, they specifically cite Governor Whitmer's 8645 display from years ago.
So they're essentially drawing a straight line from her bookshelf to actual violence.
Yes. The resolution basically argues her pen helped foster an atmosphere of hostility that led to real assassination attempts against the president.
Wow.
They're arguing that public figures are recklessly endangering the president's life by normalizing these numeric codes.
It's like an inside joke that suddenly gets you called into the principal's office, except the principal is a Department of Justice and detention is a federal prison.
That analogy hits the nail on the head regarding the stakes here. I mean, when the federal government decides your inside joke is a threat, the full weight of the justice system comes down on you.
But that leaves this massive hole in the DOJ's argument, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if Comey says it was just a shell formation and Whitmer says it's just about voting, why does the Justice Department immediately assume the number 86 means murder?
Right.
Like, where does that specific interpretation even come from?
Well, what's fascinating here is that to understand if these posts are actual threats or if they're protected speech, we have to look backward.
Okay.
We have to dive into the surprisingly contentious history of the term 86 because, it's not a new internet phrase at all. It's actually incredibly old.
Yeah, let's look at the history provided by Ann Curzan. She's the dean of the School of Literature, Science, and Arts at the University of Michigan, and she's a language expert.
She is.
And she points out that the vast majority of people know 86 from the restaurant industry. I mean, I know I've heard it a million times in diners.
Oh, totally. Anyone who's ever worked in food service knows exactly what this means.
Right.
Like a chef will yell 86 the soup to tell the waitstaff that they're completely out of soup for the night.
It just means to remove an item from the menu.
Exactly. Or restaurants also use it when they need to kick out an unruly customer. They'll say they had to 86 that guy at table 4.
Yeah. So broadly speaking, the agreed upon meaning is just remove, take it out, or get rid of.
Right. But the folklore behind where the restaurant industry actually got the term is wild.
Oh, I love this part. Curzan lays out a few popular theories that historians debate.
Let's hear them.
So, one theory takes us straight to New York City, specifically to the Empire State Building.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some people believe the phrase started because people were told to exit the building's elevators on the 86th floor. You're literally getting kicked off the ride at 86.
That's a great theory. Another really popular theory goes back to the Prohibition era, which paints an amazing picture.
Okay.
There was a famous illicit speakeasy in New York called Chumley's.
Chumley's.
And it was located at 86 Bedford Street. The story goes that the bar paid off the local cops.
Like they did back then.
Like you do. So when the police were coming to stage a fake raid just to keep up appearances, they'd call ahead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the bartender would yell 86 to warn all the customers to grab their drinks and quickly escape through the 86 Bedford Street door before the cops walked in.
I love that story. I kind of want that one to be true.
Same.
But then there's the simplest theory, which is probably the most likely one, right? Rhyming slang.
Yep.
People in the 1920s and 30s just liked the way the number 86 rhymed with the word nix, which obviously means to cancel or reject something.
So simple, right? And for decades, it remained mostly harmless slang. You'd hear it in kitchens or bars and nowhere else.
Right.
But Curzan notes that the phrase took a really sharp turn into the modern political arena relatively recently.
Yeah, that shift happened in 2018.
Let's talk about that.
It involved Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was the White House press secretary at the time. She went to a restaurant in Virginia called the Red Hen, and the owner actually asked her to leave because she worked for the Trump administration.
Right.
She was, quite literally, 86 from the establishment.
And from that exact moment on, the term evolved in the political sphere. It started to mean someone is fired, that there's no more use for them, or that they've been forcibly asked to leave the public stage.
Huh.
And this linguistic evolution is exactly where we hit the massive partisan divide we're seeing in the news today. You have two entirely conflicting interpretations of what happens when you combine the slang 86 with the president's number.
So let's break those two interpretations down neutrally for you, because they are worlds apart.
They really are.
On the right-wing side, President Trump and his supporters view 86 as a highly dangerous phrase.
Yes.
Trump himself went on the record and explicitly called it a mob term, meaning kill him. He referenced old mafia movies where a mob boss tells an associate to 86 him, meaning to murder someone and get rid of the body.
Wow.
So from their perspective and the perspective of the current DOJ under acting AG Blanche, putting 86 next to 45 or 47 completely crosses a legal line into a violent physical threat.
Okay, but on the other side, the left-wing view, which is defended by Whitmer and her supporters, argues the exact opposite.
Right.
They argue the phrase stays strictly within its traditional restaurant definition.
Just nixing something.
Exactly. To them, 8645 simply means removing a politician from office through the democratic process of voting. They argue it's a catchy way to say cancel the politician or vote them out without any invocation of physical harm whatsoever.
And complicating this entire debate is a massive double standard argument that's floating around social media right now.
Oh, yeah.
Users online are pointing out a specific documented fact. Supporters of the MAGA movement have also used this exact same phrasing.
They have.
There are memes, bumper stickers, and actual T-shirts out there right now that say 8646 directed squarely at President Joe Biden.
Yes, there are.
So people are asking, well, why a citizen wearing an 8646 T-shirt at the grocery store just expressing political frustration, but a former FBI director arranging shells results in a federal indictment?
It's a great question. And it perfectly highlights how fractured our political language has become.
Seriously.
The exact same two numbers mean entirely different things depending on who's wearing the shirt, who's reading the post, and what political tribe they belong to.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Okay.
If 86 is common slang for cancel or remove, how does a prosecutor actually walk into a courtroom and prove a literal death threat to a jury?
That is the big question.
Can a phrase truly mean two entirely different things depending on who says it? I mean, if I spell out a math equation in Seashells, is that a felony just because someone misinterprets it?
Right.
How do they prove what's actually in someone's head?
Well, that's the core legal challenge the Department of Justice faces, and it's an incredibly high bar.
It has to be.
When Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche was asked about this, he laid out a very specific standard for how they'll proceed.
What did he say? He said, and I quote, "Every case is different. The facts are different. Who makes the threat matters. What the threat says matters. The question of intent matters."
Intent, that's the magic word in the entire legal system. Right?
Always.
Yep.
You have to prove what James Comey was thinking at the exact moment he placed those seashells on the beach. Or what Gretchen Whitmer was thinking when she placed that pin on her shelf.
Yes.
But how do you actually do that? Do they subpoena Comey's text messages to see if he bragged about threatening the president?
Usually, yes.
Do they look at his internet search history?
They absolutely do. Prosecutors look at the totality of the circumstances to prove intent. They'll look for a digital footprint, previous statements, any evidence of a broader plan, or private communications that show the person knew exactly what the code meant.
Wow.
And this brings us right to the massive collision between true threats and the First Amendment.
Because the First Amendment broadly protects free speech, especially political speech.
Exactly, which is why legal experts who've reviewed the Comey indictment are calling the DOJ's charges flimsy.
Flimsy. Interesting.
Yeah. They argue that spelling out numbers in shells on a beach, without any other context, without a weapon, without a call to action, telling followers to commit violence, all of that falls squarely under protected political expression.
Right.
Under decades of Supreme Court precedent, being offensive or vague isn't a crime.
But the folks who wrote Michigan House Resolution 112 completely disagree with those legal experts.
I really do.
They argue that the First Amendment does not protect knowingly and willfully threatening the well-being of another individual by inviting the assassination of the president.
Strong words.
They believe these codes recklessly endanger lives, and that public officials using them provides a wink and a nod permission structure for crazy people to commit actual violence.
And it's a constant, agonizing balancing act for institutions trying to manage this.
I can imagine.
To give you an idea of how seriously organizations struggle to maintain this balance in practice, just look at the Michigan State University Political Activity Guidelines.
Okay, let's talk about MSU.
So MSU is a public university, and they have incredibly strict rules for their staff. University members have to keep their partisan political activities completely separate from their day jobs.
Right.
They can't use university resources like an MSU Zoom account or university letterhead to advocate for a campaign.
They can't even host political fundraising activities on campus, right?
Right, absolutely not. But at the same time, the university is legally obligated to respect individual free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Employees have great latitude to participate in the political process on their personal time, using their own money and their own social media accounts.
Makes sense.
But the guidelines illustrate just how hard it is for public entities to draw a line between allowing robust, even angry free expression and preventing the misuse of a public platform for partisan hostility. Administrators spend thousands of hours trying to figure out where that line is.
It goes back to that principal's office analogy we talked about earlier.
Yes.
If the principal wants to expel you for an inside joke, they have to prove you weren't just being a sarcastic teenager, but that you actually intended to cause a dangerous disruption in the school.
Precisely.
The DOJ is trying to act as the principal for the entire country here.
They are.
But there is a huge legal reality check hovering over the push to investigate Governor Whitmer specifically.
Oh, definitely.
And it has nothing to do with the First Amendment or proving intent.
Right.
It has to do with the calendar.
Yes, the ticking clock of federal law.
Explain that.
Well, Governor Whitmer's television appearance with the 8645 pin occurred in October 2020. And under federal law, these types of threat charges have a strict 5-year statute of limitations.
Oh, which means the deadline for the government to file charges against her was October 2025.
Exactly.
That time has already passed.
It has. The door is closed.
Wow.
So while the acting attorney general says they'll investigate other threats, prosecuting Whitmer for that specific 2020 incident is highly unlikely because the legal clock has simply run out.
The DOJ would have an almost impossible time bringing that to court.
Right. Comey, however, posted his Seashells in 2025. He's still well within the 5-year window for prosecution, which is why he's the one currently facing a grand jury.
So what stands out to you listening right now? We're looking at a situation where a former FBI director, a sitting governor, and regular citizens at the grocery store use the exact same 4-number slang.
Yeah, it's wild.
Does the identity of the speaker change how you interpret their words?
That's the big question.
Does an FBI director know better because of his background in law enforcement? Does a governor have a different level of responsibility to ensure her background decor can't be misconstrued?
I mean, it really all comes down to context and power.
Right.
When a random citizen wears an 8646 t-shirt, society usually brushes it off as venting.
Sure.
When a high-profile official with millions of followers uses similar clothes, it triggers federal investigations and legislative resolutions. The standard clearly shifts depending on the platform, the reach, and the power of the person speaking.
It really does. Let's bring all of this together.
Okay.
The debate over 4 little numbers, 8645 or 8647, shows us just how deeply fractured our political language has become.
It's incredible.
We trace this back from 1920s Prohibition-era speakeasies to modern restaurant kitchens, all the way to a federal grand jury in North Carolina today.
Quite a journey.
It proves that words and even random digits carry exactly the weight and the meaning that we assign to them.
They do. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider, building on everything we've looked at today.
What's that?
We're living in an era where political rhetoric constantly borrows from ambiguous internet slang, fleeting memes, and hidden digital codes.
Very true.
As this trend accelerates, how will future courts and juries ever accurately determine the line between a viral bad taste joke and a literal criminal threat?
Man, that's tough.
If a jury of 12 people can't even agree on what a number means, how can the justice system ever fairly enforce the law in the digital age?
That is the billion-dollar question. A handful of seashells on a beach and a tiny pin on a bookshelf might look harmless, but they're forcing us to ask exactly where free speech ends and a federal crime begins.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking closely at the news and always keep questioning the information around you.